Um, I want to share my thoughts and feelings about fixing the black community. And the first thing I want to start off with is letting people know that the changes that we want to see, even if they're realistic, and even if we have a foolproof plan that we think will work, it's going to take a long time to yield results. So in a sense, we're not going to see them. Our kids are not going to see them. Their kids are not going to see them, and so forth. So it's going to take hundreds, in my opinion, it's going to take that much time for us to start to see results because it's going to be slow and gradual. It's like a tree growing, almost like a great sequoia, which are the biggest trees. If my memory serves me correct, they're the biggest trees on Earth, and they've been growing for thousands of years. Because that's how long it takes for them to get to where they need to get, because it's gradual. So even if we do come up with a solution or a set of solutions, it's going to take time. I think we want to use brain freeze. We want to use solutions that we think are going to happen overnight. And that's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen overnight. That's why I'm kind of nervous about what's going to happen after, Obama becomes official, because it's going to be almost like a hollowness just in the collective because nothing's really happened. Yet we have a black president, which some might argue is the most powerful position in the world, and we're still killing each other on the street. So that's going to have, I don't know how that's going to, affect the psyche of black America. But in my opinion, this is what I think is going to happen. Success is like a cake, right? We see successful white people and we assume that all white people are successful. But at the top layer, it's like a pyramid. You have a few wealthy. You go down to the middle layers, which is kind of like a middle class, right? You have middle class whites, and the biggest layer is the poverty level. So you can even break down white society into this pyramid. You can break down any minority group, and they're going to have this same type of pyramid. You go to China, and everybody's like, oh, China's so great, everybody's so smart, everybody's so well off, but you don't see the underclass, right? You don't see the people working in the factories, for less than $1 a day. Shit, less than 10 cents a day, right? If Walmart has their way, they'll be working for free. So we don't see that. That's the ugly side to humanity, right? We learn to look out for ourselves. That's just the ugly part of human nature, right? That's why people choose to follow whatever religion that they need to follow, because human nature is ugly, right? There's a guilt sometimes in us knowing that, damn, somebody's worse off than me, but what can I do? I don't want to end up like them. So what's going to happen in the black community is that we're going to have to make our cake too. We already have the base layer, right? So you're going to have some people naturally who are going to make it out of that lower level and make it into a black middle class. But the thing is, the majority of the blacks in the middle class are going to have to be born into the middle class. I'm a product of that. My parents came over from Nigeria in the late 70s. They were definitely in poverty, living in the hoods in LA. Luckily, they worked hard, spent their money right, and they made it out. And me and my brothers and sisters were born into the middle class. And if we do our jobs right, we're going to have kids who are also going to be born in the middle class, and they're going to stay in that middle class. So that layer is going to slowly be built. But once again, this layer is probably going to take a couple of decades, a lot of generations to become pretty solid to the point where we can identify it. And then, of course, out of the middle class, some are going to rise up and make it into the upper class. Maybe some people from the bottom layer will rise up. You have a lot of athletes, entertainers who do so, and they make their way up into the upper class, the top level of the cake or the pyramid. And then once again, that class is going to be built up when they start to have kids, because they have to be born into that class. And if they do their jobs right, they will maintain that class. And this is comparable to any other group, any other minority group. You'll see that people tend to stay in the class that they were born in. And that's where we get the values from. If you look at white culture, especially if you look at white upper class, they're very particular in who they associate with and who they marry, because they understand, I think, better than anybody else, and I would say Asians do too, that if you want to maintain a certain level, you have to marry that certain level, and you have to make sure that the people in that group maintain that certain level. That's just how it works, right? You look at kids who are at Harvard, who are at Princeton, a lot of them are legacies, right? So there's that culture that we don't know about, that's kind of hidden, that's not that official, but they do so to maintain that sense of power, to maintain that sense of elitism. So that's probably what we're going to see happen. Honestly, it's just going to be that layered cake. And right now, we pretty much have that bottom level, and we are working on those middle levels. And once that's solidified, we're going to keep rising up. But the key phrase that I want people to walk away with is that you have to be born into it. So it has to take generations and generations to grow. The fact that the black community, some might say is becoming worse. Is it because the conditions are becoming worse, or is this because more and more people are being born into that circumstance? And that's what I see happening. Because all the black problems in the community, honestly, if you read what Malcolm X was talking about, he was already talking about, right? Everything that he said is applicable or applicable, to today's terms. To the point where, is he still alive? Because there's no difference from what he was talking about when he was, handling his business till 2008. So once again, we just have to be born into it. So hopefully those of us who do have an education, have a lot of kids, and make sure, they do what they have to do, because that's what's going to happen. We have to build our layered cake.